Paul O'Shea is joining us, and
Morning.
myself, Richie Fontaine. We're here just to give you a quick, brief rundown into the likes of the brand unification changes, talk a bit about product. We'll touch on Windows 11 as well, but just let Paul introduce himself briefly.
Yeah, good morning. Second of these sessions that we're running. The plan moving forward is that as we launch new products and as there's other things to talk about, that we will do one or two of these a week moving forward. I think it's a great way to, cover off the things that we talk about all the time in customer engagements, and it opens up time for us to talk to you a bit more in depth about what your plans are, what you might be doing around AI. Windows 11, have you started that transition? Can we help with it? All that kind of thing, and also obviously introduce the new products as we launch them. So, yeah, that's the plan here, and hopefully
Perfect.
people find it valuable.
Thanks, Paul. So let's get straight into it, since we've only got a half-hour session. So the first topic I wanted to talk to you about was around the changes that are happening within our portfolio of products. So if we go back in the past, last year was 40 years of the anniversary of Dell Technologies. So that's 40 years we go back to when Michael Dell was in his dorm room and looking at the various options of building that desktop that he had back then. And 40 years on, as it was last year, many things have changed, many areas have changed. And we've really wanted to look at, what we could do from our perspective for the next 40 years. So one of the things that have been reviewed and looked at was down to our portfolio of products and brands. And we wanted to find out, do these resonate with people in terms of the naming conventions that we have for those particular products, and how that looked for us. So we had a conversation with our consumers, customers, and partners. Some 13,000 individuals were discussed and had a conversation with. And from that came a look at, what those brand names were, what actually, if I was to say to you, if we looked at the brand names, for example, what those brand names are, which ones would you be familiar with? Would it be Latitude? Would it be Optiplex? Would it be Vostro, G Series, for example? Some of these are going to be familiar to you, others not so much. But what we wanted to do was get to a position where we had something that you could instantly understand as being what that meant from a Dell portfolio of products. And so we've gone from this wide range of product names to the following. So these are the three pillars that we will have going forward for our product range. And that's not just laptops and desktops, that's peripherals and some services as well. So we'll start off on the left-hand side where we have Dell. So the Dell that you will see on any product with that name will be those geared towards your home, school, small organizations, and so forth. And that's where they would sit. So this might be historically where you might see the likes of a Vostro or an Inspiron, for example. If we look at the subheadings, we have the base level, which would be Dell. The next level would be Dell Plus. And then finally, the premium level would be Dell Premium. That would be the top range of that particular portfolio of products or peripherals, monitors, etc. If we then move on to the second pillar, Dell Pro, this is where your professional business solutions are going to be. And again, whether that's desktop, laptop, peripherals, etc., this is where they're going to be housed, if you like, for want of a better word. So the base level for this would be Dell Pro. The next level up would be a Dell Pro Plus. And then finally, for your top end, top of the range would be the Dell Pro Premium. So if you were, for example, historically looking at something like a Latitude or a Optiplex solution, for example, this is where they would now sit within this family of products in the Dell Pro family portfolio. The third pillar relates to the Dell Pro Max. And this is where you're going to have the likes of those solutions where performance is key. So particularly for the desktops and the laptops, if you were looking at formerly a workstation, Precision as we called them back then, These are now going to be called the Dell Pro Max family of products. And here we have three subheadings as well. Slightly nuanced on the subheadings as opposed to the first two pillars, and I'll explain why. So the base level is going to be the Dell Pro Max. The mid-range that you'll see there is called the Dell Pro Max Plus. Now, even though it's the mid-range, it is actually the highest performance laptop option you're going to get from a workstation perspective, because this is where you're going to have the maximum amount of capabilities from a GPU perspective. It could be an NVIDIA A5000 card, for example. You're going to have the maximum number of terabytes of storage options on this particular classification. So it's just really the biggest of that category in terms of capabilities. Now, the Dell Pro Max Premium is a mix of performance and innovation design. So that's where the compromise comes in. So premium is as much about performance as it is about design. So that's where that's going to sit. So those are the three sort of main pillars to be aware of. And those changes are coming into our range of products that have launched in January, and there are more launching in March this month. As we go into April and beyond, you'll see more and more products come out with these naming conventions as opposed to what you've seen historically. So hopefully that's given you a flavor of what that means. By all means, reach out to your account managers, teams, if you want further explanations, want a deeper dive into these, we can certainly do that for you.
That's great. Thank you, Richi. And just, you mentioned it there, we're doing the same thing on peripherals.
Yes.
So from conversations that I've had with customers, the ability to align users within their organization and a base, a plus or a premium device, peripheral support services that are wrapped around that is really handy in terms of, whereas before it was more challenging. Is it a precision? Is it a latitude? Is it an instrument? Is it what sits where? Like I keep mentioning that over here in Ireland, Latitude is a music festival. From a device point of view, it really doesn't tell you a whole lot about what it's for, who's supposed to use it. So the other thing as well I wanted to ask you about, because again it's very much a hot topic, is around Windows 11 and that transition, and the end of support is coming up quick on Windows 10. Now, just for people watching, Richi is external. I support the sales teams internally. So Richi is out with customers all the time. He meets them in our office in Creechurch, where we have a tech center, and you can see a lot of the products. But I'm just interested what for the customers who maybe haven't started, or they've kind of started, but and obviously time is ticking away. Can you run through a little bit about what conversations you're having with them, where we can help, why Dell is a really good fit when you're talking about Windows 11?
Absolutely.
If you wouldn't mind. And I have a slide you were talking about earlier, so I'll bring that up. But if you want to shoot away while I button bash and get things working.
So it's really important to understand what's happening. So the transition between Windows 10 and 11 isn't like the transition between 7 and 10 that we had some years back, where there was lots of differences, lots of variations. This is really a sort of almost like an upgrade to your 10, but it happens to be called Windows 11. And it's that additional sort of transition over to that. So the actual changes are not as massive as they have been. But what it does mean is that, the actual timing that you have for this, it's been going around for quite some time in terms of the date. So 14th of October this year is the cutoff date for when Windows 10 support ends. But having that ability to utilize Windows 11, utilize the AI capabilities that come with that, and also in your transitioning your laptop, desktop estate to an AI device that can take full advantage of those capabilities. We've worked with Windows 11 as being the transition and talked to customers. I have certainly for quite some time. I know there is sometimes it's not a priority for some organizations necessarily historically, and that could mean stakeholders not fully understanding what's coming. And it really is a key that you get to that point where you can transition to the new devices, to Windows 11, 99.7% of your applications that currently work on 10 should work on 11. If they don't, Microsoft are there to help, and we're there to help as well. We've had a very long standing relationship with Microsoft, some 35 plus years, as one of their premium partners. Our devices take full advantage of Windows 11, the capabilities there, and we offer having the broadest range, if you like, of AI capable PCs out in the marketplace. It means that we're well positioned to give that solution to you. But it's something that you need to be aware of. There is the dangers, obviously, of not having the transition in time, and there is an extended capability to have that extended security updates only, but there is a cost involved for that. Less so for education, but certainly for the enterprise solution, there is a cost implication for extending that support if you need to over a 3-year period, up to a 3-year period. So we really do encourage everyone to really, double down on getting your estate over to Windows 11. And if you do have, applications or that need to have some additional support, reach out to us. Ourselves and Microsoft can help you with that. And also, if you really need to, transition those estate elements that aren't capable to take Windows 11, then this is a no better time to do that when we have the devices that we have, the broadest range that we have in terms of our options and processors, etc. So it's really a good time to do the transition and get yourself over the line before October the 14th this year.
Perfect. Thank you, Richie. And just bear in mind, things like Office 365, once that cutoff comes, Microsoft will ask you to replicate. If you have an issue and you're looking for support and you're still on 10, they'll ask you to replicate that in Windows 11 before they'll help. A lot of those tools and applications should continue to work. But if I was a cyber criminal, I would be looking to utilize AI tools to really target Windows 10 devices, because there won't be that sort of additional support going on with them. There won't be any advancements in terms of the development of Windows 10 is finished. Reach out to the teams. We're more than happy to help. There's lots of things we can do to help. So if you haven't started at all, or if you're in that position that you've started doing it, it's a great time to have a chat with us. I'm going to open up the product views now. So these are the products that we've already launched that we can talk about. But when we're talking about them, probably the key consideration I would say at the moment is CPU selection. So as you probably heard during our announcements at CES, AMD are coming into the mix. So now we have Intel, AMD, and Qualcomm available through our commercial devices. With the rate of change and the amount of AI workloads that are hitting our devices currently, that's massively accelerating. So the utilization of AI in the development of tools is speeding up the amount of tools that are hitting our devices. So we have to really think about, and this is where we talk to the sales teams, we go, look, understand the customer use case, understand the user profiles. How long are you planning on running these devices? Is it 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? Are you going to want to potentially upgrade the system after 2 or 3 years? Because your CPU selection will determine whether you can or can't do that. So with the Lunar Lake devices, for example, and I'm going to load up this first one here now. With the Lunar Lake devices, the memory is on the chip. So that's a consideration. So you're getting the latest and greatest. You're getting memory on the chip that is not upgradable, but it does operate at a much higher mega transfers per second. So you get a really high performing, very efficient memory, which gives you a battery improvement. So there's a lot to talk about when you're talking about the devices, the components, but very much in relation to the lifespan of that device and the tools that you're using today, but likely what you might be doing around AI internally, or whether it's off the shelf, or whether it's purely the amount of additional AI workloads hitting us from Teams and Zoom and 365 and security applications. So having the right CPU is going to ensure that your users aren't coming to you in 18 months or 2 years' time and saying, my machine's too slow, it's just not handling, the workload. So the more we understand that, the better position we are to make sure that we're recommending the right device and explaining why we think it's the right device.